Today we're going to be talking about multiplying matrices. Matrices A and B can be multiplied only if the number of columns in matrix A equals the number of rows in matrix B. So for instance, the product of an M by N matrix, remember this is number of rows by the number of columns, and an N by P matrix is equal to that of an N by P matrix because notice the number of columns and the number of rows are identical. So basically, if they're identical, just take the end numbers and that will give you your resulting M by P matrix. So let's continue. Let's take a look at this chart. It's a state whether the matrix product AB is defined. If so, state the order of the product. So basically, we're looking to see if the middle numbers here are the same. So they are, this is the number of columns and the number of rows are the same, so we end up with a 2 by 1 matrix. Just take the resulting numbers on the end. Here, the middle numbers are the same, so take the end numbers. We get a resulting 1 by 5 matrix when we multiply matrices A and B together. Now here, 2 and 3, those numbers are not the same, so we cannot multiply these matrices together, and this is undefined. Next one, the middle numbers are the same, so the result is a 5 by 4 matrix. Take the end numbers. Here, the middle numbers are the same, 5 by 4 and 4 by 2. Take the end numbers, so we get a 5 by 2 matrix as a result. This one, a 3 by 2 and a 3 by 4, the number of columns, number of rows are not the same. So this is automatically undefined. You cannot multiply these matrices together. And the last two, an 8 by 3 and a 3 by 4, middle numbers are the same, so we get an 8 by 4 matrix. Okay, so now let's actually see what some of this is going to look like. Let's go on to the next page. We want to find the product of these matrices. We want to multiply them together, and if it's not defined, we need to state the reason. Now, what we do is we take the first row and multiply it by the first column. We multiply corresponding entries together. So we take 1 times 4 and add to it 2 times 0. Multiply corresponding entries and add them together. So we get 4 plus 0, which is 4. Now we're going to create brackets and we're going to make 4 our first entry. By the way, since we are multiplying a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2, the resulting matrix is also going to be a 2 by 2. Now what we're going to do, take the second row, multiply by the first column. So we're going to say negative 4 times 4 plus 3 times 0. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16, plus 0 is negative 16. So that is going to go as the second entry in the first column. Now let's do the same thing with the next column. Take the first row times the second column. So we're going to say 1 times 1 plus 2 times negative 1. So we have 1 minus 2, which gives us negative 1. That becomes the first entry of the second column. And now the next one we say negative 4 times 1 plus 3 times negative 1. That's the second row, second column. So we end up with negative 4 minus 3, which gives us negative 7. Okay, and so this is our result. Now, we can, of course, multiply larger matrices together. So let's go on to one where we're multiplying a 3 by 3 and a 3 by 3. The result is also going to be a 3 by 3 matrix. So this is defined. We're going to take the first row times the first column. So we're going to take, again, multiply corresponding entries. So we're going to say 7 times 0 plus 1 times 5 plus 1 times negative 3. So we have 0 plus 5 minus 3, which gives us 2. First entry, first column. Now we're going to take the second row times the first column. So 0 times 0 plus 2 times 5 plus 6 times negative 3. That is a negative there. So we're going to end up with 0 plus 10 minus 18, which gives us negative 8. Again, now continuing on, last row times first column. So we're going to say 3 times 0 plus negative 2 times negative 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong column. 2 times negative 5. 2 times 5, I should say. I was looking at the wrong column. So we have 3 times 0, negative 2 times 5, and then we have the last one, 1 times negative 3. Okay, so that's much better. So we have 0 minus 10 minus 3, which gives us negative 13. Repeat the process with the second column. So we're going to say first row times second column. So 7 times 1 plus 1 times negative 2 plus 1 times 1. So we have 7 minus 2 plus 1. So 7 minus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So there's our first entry in the second column. Continuing, second row, second column, 0 times 1 plus 2 times negative 2 plus 6 times 1. So we have 0 minus 4 plus 6, which gives us 2. Next one, last row, second column, 3 times 1 plus negative 2 times negative 2 plus 1 times 1. So we have 3 plus 4 plus 1, which gives us 8. Now moving on to the very last column. We're going to say first row times last column, so we're going to have 7 times 4 plus 1 times 1 plus 1 times negative 8. So we have 28 plus 1 minus 8, which gives us 21. So that is the first row in the last column. Next, 0 times 4 plus 2 times 1 plus 6 times negative 8. So we have 0 plus 2 minus 48 gives us negative 46. Second entry in the last column. And then last row, last column. So we have 3 times 4 plus negative 2 times 1 plus 1 times negative 8. I ran out of room, so we've got 12 minus 2 minus 8. 12 minus 2 is 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. So our last entry in the last column is 2. And I know that took a little bit of time. You will get that. It just takes practice. So let's move on to the next one. We have a 2 by 3 matrix, and we're asked to multiply by another 2 by 3 matrix. This is undefined. Notice the number of columns and the number of rows in both of these matrices do not match. So we're going to have to say it's undefined. We cannot do this. Next, we're going to talk about square matrices. A square matrix has the same number of rows as columns. So this is a 2 by 2. That makes it a square matrix. A 3 by 3 or a 4 by 4 matrix is also a square matrix. And you're asked to find a squared here. So basically, you know, if you square something, you multiply it by itself. So we're going to take this matrix and multiply it by itself. And this is what I would like you to do for the next class, is to try this problem and see if you can come up with a squared. Thanks for joining me. See you soon.